Hello and welcome. My name is John Rivers, and I'm joined today by the recipient of the David Silvers Association of College and University Housing Officers International Programming of the Year Award for the National Association College and University Residence Halls, which is the international body of residence halls across the whole world. He's also studying as a political science major with an informal emphasis in American political theory. Please welcome to the program a senior resident assistant from San Francisco State University, Mr. Christopher Valentino. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Thank you, John, for having me.
So you have a really unique position in terms of this election, in terms of viewing the youth vote, really, from the perspective of being a senior RA. You're probably on a floor, I'm assuming on a floor. How many residents are you?
This year I'm working with 74 residents directly and roughly around another 100 informally as an advisor of a hall government.
Yeah, so you are regularly interacting with college students, that's right?
Yeah.
Okay, so have you seen any major changes in the political attitudes since you've been working for RA, this is your third year now. Has you seen any major changes due to this election?
I wouldn't say any major changes in so much as that there's a lot of discussion, a lot of dialogue about the election, a lot of dialogue about Romney versus Obama, and a very, very dichotomous dialogue of that. But when I think back to the other two major elections of my life, 2010 with the gubernatorial race was Jerry Brown versus Whitman, and back to 2008, the historic election with Senator Obama, then Senator Obama, and Senator John McCain.
Yeah.
I think that a lot has changed, but also not a lot has changed as well.
Yeah.
This being my first presidential election, I missed 2008 by 3 months, much to my chagrin.
Similar story.
I think that generally speaking, students are more aware and more involved now. This being a presidential year, traditionally presidential elections always have more turnout than off-year elections. But I also think that the political environment that our new first-year students here at SF State that it's a very different political environment for them. We have, if Prop 30 doesn't pass in next Tuesday,
that's the budget, correct?
The budget one. If that doesn't pass, the CSU system will lose $250 million, like that, right off the bat.
That's something that we can't let happen. What I'm going for is there generally during the 2008 campaign there was a huge optimistic base of youth voters for Barack Obama, and now according to a Gallup poll, I believe the amount of voters that are going to turn out is about 20% less in the 18 to 29-year-old age group than previous years. Are youthful voters getting a little more cynical?
I think being cynical has a bit to do with it, especially because we definitely live in a very cynical time. Like, our generation came of age, politically speaking, during the Bush administration. We've known nothing but war, recession, pestilence in some parts of the world. You look at the newspaper every day, and it's a very, very depressing headlines: debt, deficit, these very negative words that have a lot of negative connotation. They're out there a lot in the media today. So generally speaking, yes, I do think that we're maybe a more cynical generation, or at least a more skeptic generation.
Yeah. But you don't think that has a direct correlation to less voter turnout?
I wouldn't necessarily say so. Also, I think Gallup's a wonderful organization, but most polls are done by landlines.
Yeah.
And most of the young voters probably don't have a landline. Can't think of any statistics off the head, but the New York Times and Washington Post just released a couple of articles last couple of days talking about that very issue, on whether or not we need to revise the way we conduct polling.
Yeah, I've seen polls saying Romney's going to win. I've seen polls saying Obama's going to win. It's been all over the place, and I feel like a lot of the public doesn't really want to pay attention to it anymore.
Not at all. Like, there's a bunch of policy wonks like myself that follow these polls and on a daily basis, but sometimes you lose yourself in the polls, and you lose yourself to the grander narrative, and also to some of the political science of it.
So, sorry, final question. There's a lot of voters that I've heard, they've been saying my vote doesn't matter. My vote isn't going to affect this election. Quickly, can you tell them what would you be your response to that line of reasoning?
On one hand, I think my response to that would be, so if your vote doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt to vote it anyway. On one hand, but it does matter. It does count, because it means more than just who gets elected. It's about the health of our American democracy, and your representative. If no one in our age cohort votes, then we're not going to be represented.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, well, that's all the time we have for the evening. Have a wonderful day. Go vote on November 6th, and good night.